Hi, this is Shirley Leung, host of Say More. I want to share something special with you this week. It's an episode of the podcast Endless Thread from our friends at WBUR. In this episode, you'll hear the story of Brooke Eby. She was 33 years old when she was diagnosed with ALS, a neurodegenerative condition commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease. As ALS progresses, you lose the ability to walk, chew, and eventually breathe. Patients are usually given 2 to 5 years to live, although younger patients often live for longer. Brooke has been documenting the progression of her disease on TikTok, often with laugh-out-loud humor. Okay, here's the show.
Brooke, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me.
This is all pre-recorded, so you may hear us stumble over questions that we want to ask you, in which case we'll just do them again. Feel free to do the same if you start an answer and you want to say it differently.
Sounds good.
Go for it.
And you're allowed to swear because it's a podcast. So.
Noted.
If that's your jam.
It's actually like my New Year's resolution is to do it less, so I'm trying not to. But I feel like that's such a cliche New Year's resolution that never really sticks, you know?
No, I don't know anyone who's trying to swear less. I think these times people are swearing more.
It's the inverse, perhaps. I'm Brooke Eby. I'm currently in Florida. I'm here for the winters, so right now it's like 80 degrees, which, sorry if you guys are Northeast. I'm in Maryland for the summer, so I used to be Maryland year round, and now that I live with my parents, I get to just mooch off of their snowbird lifestyle.
Brooke Eby is 36 years old. Until recently, she was living alone with her dog, Dr. Draymond Green, named for the basketball player.
Last fall, Brooke and Dre moved in with Brooke's parents, who mostly live in Maryland, but make like geese in the winter and head south. Brooke did not take the decision to use her word mooch off her parents lightly. First, she consulted her nearly 200,000 followers on TikTok.
I need advice, people.
In this TikTok video from last summer, Brooke is outside. She's talking into her phone, which is positioned below her face. It has that look of an impromptu FaceTime call from a friend.
I just need reassurance. Maybe I just need someone cheering me on that this is the right thing to do. Or stories and pep talks of moving back in with your parents at the age of 35 is okay. The big regression feeling. So, I don't know. I need reinforcement. Help me.
Brooke sent this message out to her nearly 200,000 followers. More than 1,700 people commented.
There was nary a negative response in the bunch. They were all like, it's a reconfiguration, not regression, and save money.
Brooke has a lot of followers, thanks in no small part to her humor, which can be pretty edgy. Here's her doing a stand-up set for a crowd. She's joking about people who have Lou Gehrig's disease, also known as ALS.
I want to be clear, Stephen Hawking is an absolute legend. But did he make ALS cool?
Brooke's stand-up was a sit-down affair, because Brooke's in a wheelchair. For the past 3 years, Brooke has been living with a terminal diagnosis. And through almost all of it, she's been posting on TikTok.
What if I could walk and move again? And I just became an insufferable dance talker. My top is Old Navy, my pants are Amazon, my headband is Lily, and my Life Alert necklace is SkyAngels911.com. I've been on the exposing people faking diseases for attention side of TikTok lately. Gotta say, I'm a little offended that no one has accused me yet.
I'm Ben Brock Johnson.
I'm Amory Sivertson, and you're listening to Endless Thread, coming to you from WBUR, Boston's NPR.
And today, we talk to Brooke about making jokes through hard times. Brooke was not a naturally inclined social media star. What was your relationship with social media during your 20s?
At the beginning of my 20s, Instagram was much more do you remember those extra filtered pictures that we were all putting up.
Of course.
Do I?
With like the borders. Like that's what Instagram was. It was, no one had stories. It wasn't very oversharing. And then I think it got, more and more advanced later in my 20s, but I was normal on it. I was private, just to my family and friends.
After graduating from Lehigh University, Brooke then worked in tech. She spent most of a decade bopping between coasts.
And then when I turned 29, I was moving back to New York from San Francisco. And when I was in San Francisco, I started feeling like tightness in my calf. But I thought it was like, when you're 29, you're like so oblivious and naive. I was like, oh, I just like did too much Pilates. I'm that in shape that my calf hurts.
That symptom became harder to ignore on the streets of Manhattan.
Like, pretty quickly that you're walking slower in New York City because people are just bulldozing you. And I'm like, this feels funny. But again, I just didn't pay attention to it. I ignored it really until some of my colleagues started pointing out that I was limping.
At first, Brooke talked to her sister, who's a doctor, to see if she had any idea of what was going on. Her sister thought maybe Brooke had a pinched nerve. Doctors outside of the family were just as flummoxed.
We were all sort of delusional that I was perfectly healthy at 29. But that kind of kicked off like the whirlwind of the 4-year diagnosis process.
In 2022, Brooke started losing her balance more often. So she went back to the doctor. The weakness that had started in her left leg had moved to her right. That was enough to confirm a diagnosis: ALS, a neurodegenerative disease commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease, after the Yankees' first baseman, who was diagnosed with ALS at the peak of his sports career in 1939.
A fatal disease attacked baseball's Iron Man.
That I might have been given a bad break, but I've got an awful lot to live for.
As ALS progresses, you lose the ability to make most voluntary movements, like walking, chewing, swallowing food, and eventually breathing. Patients are usually given a life expectancy of 2 to 5 years, although younger patients often live for longer.
What was your knowledge of ALS before this, or what was your exposure to it? What did you know about it?
I clearly knew nothing about it because I thought, in my mind, it was a mostly genetic disease that affected older men and was super rare. Like, those were the 3 things that I was pretty sure of going into it. And then I also was told it moves so fast that, in a matter of months, you're like paralyzed, if not dead. And I'm like, well, I've been dealing with this for 4 years, so I just don't get, and I'm like a young woman with no genetic markers. Like, they even tested my genes and they came back clear. So I just was so wrong about everything. It turns out like 90% of cases are not genetic, so didn't rule anything out there. It's not nearly as rare as I thought it was, and it affects anyone at any age. Like, it truly does not discriminate. So everything I thought I knew about it was wrong. I remember the ice bucket challenge, but mostly because I didn't get nominated and I felt really unpopular.
Remember the ice bucket challenge of 2014, Ben?
I remember the viral dump a bucket of ice water on yourself after someone nominates you part, but I completely forgot that this was about raising money to cure ALS. Maybe because nobody tagged me.
Well, nobody tagged Brooke either.
I'm like, man, I'm in no one's top 3. Like, give me a break.
The initial few months after the diagnosis were rough.
All I had been doing was like lying in bed and eating M&Ms every day. It was a dark time. Reading a lot of books. I think I was reading like a book a day to escape. I know my Goodreads was fire that year, and it will never be that high again.
In between tearing through books, Brooke had to tell everyone she knew that she was dying, which made people uncomfortable.
Because no one knows what to say. Like, I remember we were at the doctor, like at the neurologist, and they were like, well, with ALS, you really need to focus on gaining weight. So like, eat whatever you want, eat as much as you want. And my sister goes, you're so lucky. And like, I just remember like immediately pulling out my phone and being like, we're going to remember that one. My poor sister, I use it all the time. And she's like the kindest one of our family. And I'm always throwing her under the bus with that story.
Brooke started keeping a little note on her phone with some of the funny moments related to her diagnosis.
But she wasn't sure anyone else would see the humor in a situation that was also pretty bleak. So she kept the note private until a wedding where she was supposed to be a bridesmaid.
I was like, you've got to be kidding me. The bridesmaid's dress like barely fit me because the M&Ms. And then I showed up with a walker, and as soon as I walked in, the bride's grandma showed up with the exact same walker. Like, I looked down and I was like, oh, she has tennis balls too. So we were like, kind of like, hey. But that I turned to my friend and I was like, we're out of here. Like, there's no way I'm going to walk down the aisle with this walker as a bridesmaid. Like, no chance. And my friend, not the bride, I told that to my friend in secret. And she was like, it could be really embarrassing, or we could just try to make it really fun. Like, you're going to get a good story out of it. Just go for it. You know, we made it through the ceremony, and then by the reception, I don't know if like my embarrassment had worn off or if I just kind of forgot about it, but we had like the best time on the dance floor. Like, the bride was doing the limbo under my walker. People were hopping on for walker rides. And I was like, okay, everyone's laughing. I'm way more comfortable because the prior 2 months I had just been having like tearful conversations, telling people about my diagnosis and being like, all right, go, I ruined your day, like, go enjoy. And so this was the first time I'm like, all right, people aren't even asking me what's going on. They're just like trying to have fun.
When Brooke got home, she started going through the note on her phone, detailing all the funny moments since her diagnosis. The next day, she had brunch with the same friend who cheered her up at the wedding, Jackie. Brooke showed Jackie the note on her phone.
And she was like, Brooke, you need to do something with this. Like, this can't just live here. I forced her to be in my first video because I'm like, if we are going to be embarrassed, you're going down with me.
The very first video is of Brooke and Jackie on a couch, pantomiming the conversation where Brooke discloses that she has a rare terminal illness. Brooke's head is in her hands, she's pretending to cry, but Jackie is smiling wide with deep dimples. Ebullient. Maybe they'll name it after you, she says in the caption. The videos that follow are very vintage 2022 TikToks, heavy on popular sounds like this one with the footage from the wedding that started it all.
Don't be suspicious, don't be suspicious, oh, don't be suspicious, don't be suspicious.
That's played after a caption of Brooke saying she doesn't want to draw attention to her diagnosis, while you see Brooke and her walker absolutely being the main characters on the dance floor.
Brooke's terminal illness and her willingness to laugh about it were immediately the cornerstone of her shtick. She uploaded the videos under the handle Limp Bruise Kit.
Fred Durst, anyone? Limp Bizkit? No? Amory? No?
I get it. Brooke had no idea if anyone would find her videos funny. Maybe they would just find them sad.
So that's why my first couple of videos, I was always kind of nervous because I'm like, should I be joking at a time like this? I don't know.
That all makes total sense to me. And I also think humor has always been this way of like dealing with darkness, right?
I agree. I think like, especially with COVID and like during and post-COVID life, like the whole concept of meme culture, like we can make a joke out of absolutely anything. Like, we're quick now. Like, people just need humor, I think, to process things.
Can you talk a little bit about when you started to realize that you were really gaining traction with the stuff that you were putting on the internet?
When I first started seeing like my follower count go up and all of that, it was probably like my dating videos, early days when I was using a cane.
These videos feature screenshots of the texts she got from potential suitors.
Things like, "Can I borrow your cane? I feel myself falling."
Or, "Okay, I see you, Abraham Limpin."
Next, Brooke started making videos about this medicine she was taking as part of a trial.
Medicine that tasted really bad.
So I did like a taste testing series so people could suggest like how to chase it or how to deal with it.
Pickle juice, shot glass. Oh, stench. Let's just do it. It's no big deal.
I think after those two, that was when I started seeing like, okay, people are remembering that they've seen me before and they're saying like, Brooke, blah, blah, blah. Like they remembered who I was as opposed to it just being another like swipe away video. But it is hard, I think, still to understand any sort of impact you make if it's just on the internet. Because it's, I don't know, sometimes it feels like I'm playing The Sims. Like I see the number of people watching and I see all the comments. But it's strange because like ultimately I'm talking to my phone and then I'm clicking a button and then I'm seeing little internet Sims pop up as commenting. Like, I'm like, how is any of this real? It's strange because everyone's like, you're so brave. I'm like, I'm actually just talking to myself in my room.
Do you identify as an influencer? Do you think of yourself as an influencer?
No.
What's your relationship to that term?
I don't really have one. Like the stuff that I like influence on is much more niche. It's like, if you need adaptive clothing, I've got a recommendation, but it's not like everyone's going to go out and sell that out because it's not a need for most people.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, what are the products that you would influence on?
Yeah, you should see the partnerships that reach out to me. I always crack up picturing like my manager versus like a normal person's manager because like she gets calls from like the National Funeral Directors Association. And I'm like, sure. That's a perfect fit. Like, it's a very weird space to be in.
So Brooke is definitely not a full-time influencer. She still works a 9-to-5 job in tech, with only the occasional funeral sponcon.
Funeral directors help with every step of end-of-life planning. You can document your wishes and understand the logistics. So if I want to play Kesha's Die Young, noted.
Unlike other viral creators, Brooke doesn't get a lot of hate online, but she does get comments that are pretty weird.
Someone wrote me a message, this poor person, because I don't even know who it was. It was some stranger. But she was like, sometimes I feel like I have a death sentence because I've been single for so long.
Oh.
Wow.
And it's just like, in her heart, she's not trying to be mean to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's also this layer of like pity or sort of like people being like, oh, I'm so like
you make me
feel more. You make me feel thankful for every day because your life is so terrible.
Right. Yeah.
Like what does that feel like for you to receive? Because you seem like very open and non-judgmental in some ways, but also you can see the humor in the ridiculousness of the way people act towards you. So that's what I was trying to ask about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I actually had not even thought about that. And then someone messaged me once and they're like, do you ever get sick of like being the reason people want to be a better person? And I'm like, I'd never really thought about it. But once she said it now, I'm like, it kind of is in the back of my head sometimes when I get comments like that. But they have to be phrased in a very specific way for it to be a little obnoxious. You know, like most of the time, if someone's like, I want to appreciate every day, like to me, that's a great comment. I'm like, good.
Right.
If someone were to say like, you know, I should feel lucky because like my life isn't as shitty as yours, then I'd be like, okay, like that phrasing, I don't think I would like. But I don't know that people phrase it like that. I don't remember seeing it, at least. I would say the feedback is a gift. The feedback that I get is, especially at the beginning, was you're making light of this, or like you seem too happy. And I think, honestly, most of the people who are making those comments are probably ones who had like a first row seat to someone living with this and are still feeling like angry at the disease. At least that's the backstory I've given them, because otherwise, like, what do they care? But I think in my mind, I'm like, I'm not reframing it. I just wasn't that progressed. Like, it wasn't that hard at that point. And now that it's gotten worse, like, there's not going to be as many videos of me being like, ALS is no big deal. Like, it's just the nature of progression. So I'm like, just stay along for the ride. And if you want to see things get worse, like, you will with this disease. So stick around.
Watching all of Brooke's videos in one day is kind of like reading a flip book of how ALS progresses. In the early videos, Brooke doesn't look that far off from, say, one of the famous beauty influencers like Alex Earle. She does her makeup and get ready with me videos. Her shampoo commercial hair always looks like she's just had a blowout. She lives alone in a cool apartment. Now she needs around-the-clock care, thus the difficult decision to move home.
How would you describe your mobility right now?
Like a rag doll. Like, nothing really works. I mean, this, like, I can raise my hands, but like they're claws now. I'm really not into the way they look. I can still type, especially on my phone. I can still type keyboard, a lot more typos these days, and I can like move my head and talk, but below the screen it's like it's a mess.
Before the TikTok ban briefly went into effect in January, Brooke made a video about how it felt to go back and watch her own content from the beginning.
It's so surreal, the amount that we've had to adapt. 3 years ago, I was walking. And now I can't do anything. I don't even feel emotions because it doesn't feel real. It feels like I'm playing a role in a movie. And then someone's gonna finally yell cut. And I'm gonna just pop up out of my chair and go be normal again.
Day to day, I think it's easy for me to just rely on like humor and staying busy to cope. But then, like in that video, I just looked back at all these videos from a year before, 2 years before, 5 years before. And I was like, oh my God, I did not realize. I knew how much had changed, but I don't know, seeing myself just a year ago versus today was startling. I don't think our brains are meant to compute the speed of change that comes with this disease. Like I made that video and I was thinking like, this is not a relatable feeling at all. Like, I mean, I just feel like I'm an actress playing a role right now. Like, this doesn't feel real. And people are like, no, that's called dissociation. Like, that's very much a psychological term that most people go through. And I was like, oh, okay. You can tell I'm like not actively in therapy all the time.
In your videos, you've been documenting all along the way the progression of the disease and how it's changing your life day by day, implement by implement that you're adding into your routine. But there will come a time when you can't verbalize anymore, when you can't use your voice and use your humor in the way that you use it now. Do you think you'll still be making videos? Have you thought about what the content creation process might be then?
Yeah, I mean, there are some people who go the full progression while still having a voice, and I'm still delusional enough to think I'm going to be one of them. Even though my voice is clearly getting weaker, I'm still not slurring, which makes me happy because I'm like, people can still understand me. But that said, like, I have voice banked. I do have my voice saved so I can use it in some sort of like text to talk thing. That's a big thing in the ALS community. As soon as you get diagnosed, they're like, start saving your voice. But I think my intention is like to keep going really as far as I can. Like, I think the way that looks might be a little different. Like, rather than, you know, me talking a ton, it might be like my parents helping talk or like filming stuff. Or maybe it's just, you know, not talking and I'm just like putting music over something I'm doing. Like, I think there's options. My goal is really to show everything just because that's what I wish someone had done. I would love to see someone who's more progressed than I am get into bed or stay asleep. Like, how the hell do you stay asleep when you can't move and you get uncomfortable or something falls asleep? Like, those are the things that I'm like, I don't want to watch a whole sad documentary just to sort of like try to glean insights of how to do things when like I could just make a 2-minute video of this is what we're doing now. It might not work next week, but it's working right now. So that's the goal. I mean, man plans, God laughs, I think people say, but that's the plan for now.
Brooke doesn't know exactly how much time she has. Maybe she has 5 years. Maybe she has 10 years.
What she does know is that curing ALS is going to take more resources.
Social media, whether it's the Ice Bucket Challenge or a TikToker raising awareness, can build community around ALS, but it's not going to cure the disease. That takes research, which has a price tag.
Thank you for all of the thoughts and prayers. Now, have you considered money?
Right now, ALS researchers are facing proposed funding cuts by the Trump administration that could drastically slow down their efforts. So if you're a billionaire, says Brooke, maybe forget about rockets and Mars and take up funding ALS research as your cause.
I feel like the other planets have already made it here, and we just haven't been told about it. So I'm like, why don't we just ask them what it's like before we go waste all our money going there, you know?
On TikTok, Brooke is a one-woman ice bucket challenge, raising awareness of ALS and what it's like to live with it. But going viral prompted her to start another online community, one that's more specific.
So if you think about my last 2.5 years after being diagnosed, I put myself in front of an audience. And because of that, I have access to so many more resources because I have 200,000 people willing to answer a question I have. If I were to post I really need advice on the best toothbrush for weak hands, I could get 1,000 messages back. Whereas someone who's not a psycho putting her life online, like a normal person living with this disease, they could go to their support group. I don't know how fast they'll get a response. There's just not as immediate of answers as I've been able to get. So I kept thinking about that. How do I make it so everyone has this level of access and this level of immediacy? And then I flashed back to when I first got diagnosed. They give you this godforsaken packet. It's like an encyclopedia size. And it's just pamphlet after pamphlet of resources. And you've just gotten diagnosed. They tell you have 2 to 5 years. It could be less than that, and you're going to lose every ability until that point. So you go home and your brain is just scrambled. And you're also am I going to be paralyzed tomorrow? You just start thinking in terms of speed. Everything moves so fast. And yet the resources they give you are in a folder with paper that none of us has used since elementary school. I'm if this disease moves fast, why are we still treating it like we're in the 90s? We got to do better than this.
Brooke's day job is at the tech company Salesforce. She worked with some of her colleagues there to create a channel on the professional group messaging app Slack. It is specifically for ALS patients and their caregivers, and it's called ALS Together. And Brooke says it's really special to her because it's a rare space where people are going through similar challenges.
Even when I'm talking to my best friends in the world who I've known since we were 4 years old, I could tell her anything. But right now, she's about to have her second baby at the same time where I'm learning how to use a ceiling lift to get me into the shower. We lead 2 very different lives. I think it's probably the same way that moms feel after they have a baby, where they're I could complain to my friends, but unless they have a newborn too, they don't get it. That's probably how everyone feels about something in their life. It's good to see other people, whether they live near you or look like you, going through the same thing, because you're okay, I'm normal in this group, you know?
Brooke, it was so fun to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you.
You too. This is a fun little Friday. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. And, give that dog a hug for us.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You, now you have to go look at my Instagram and see what he looks like.
I will.
Same.
Because he's the wormiest little thing. You'd never expect such a loud bark.
Thank you to Brooke Eby and her dog, Dr. Draymond Green.
This episode was written and produced by Grace Tatter. It was co-hosted by Amory Sivertson and me, Ben Brock Johnson.
Mix and sound design by Emily Jankowski.
The rest of our team is Franny Monahan, Dean Russell, Caitlin Harrop, and Meg Kramer. Our managing producer is Samantha Joshi, and our production manager is Paul Vikis.
Endless Thread is a show about the blurred lines between online communities and humor to get through the hard times.
If you have an untold history, an unsolved mystery, or other wild story from the internet that you want us to tell, hit us up, endlessthread@WBUR.org.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Endless Thread. If you want to hear more, follow Endless Thread on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And make sure you're following Say More while you're at it. That's it for now. I'm Shirley Leung. We'll be back next week.